I am your host for this conference and for this bootcamp. I am your host, and my co-host is Olariwaju. My co-host is Olariwaju, which a lot of people know him as Ola Charles. So let's bring up Mr. Chineye-Umba to give us our keynote talk. Mr. Chineye-Umba, can you unmute and let's have you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Global Power Platform Bootcamp. It's a complete pleasure for me to be here. For Tyler to give me a keynote. I've done my best to take away as much of the gray as is possible and try to connect with you in the space that you're in. I think one of the most critical things to keep in mind as we go into this discussion is probably going to come at the end of my discussion. I want to take you on a brief journey, just a very, very short journey around the background to where we are presently. Personally, my own journey into computing began many, many years ago. As far back as 1978, I was really child in the university environment when I first laid eyes on a computer, or what looked like a computer. And I had this little, my friend had this little system, monochrome screen, you know, and we typed some stuff inside it, and this little object will somehow would jump on the screen. But a decade later, you know, I got access to what we thought of a big computer then, and actually what it was a typewriter, called the IBM Collector. So you type up all your proposals into it, and as you type, it will store, and then when you finish typing and do all your questions, it starts to spit out all your things in your paper. And it was absolutely fabulous. I remember how we used to gather around and just walk through things, picking out the piece of paper, wondering where was it going, how was it working. A decade later, in 1994, I started establishing infographics with my friends and partners higher up the team. And that kind of like started on this incredible journey to this point where we're at now. It seems kind of like difficult to understand, particularly today in 2021, that there was once a time when email was really difficult. And that there was once a time when what we call now apps just couldn't really exist. What you had was just a cursor on the screen, and people like Bill Gates say that the computer will be in every home and every desktop one day. And lots of people are laughing. I think it was pretty crazy old guys to be thinking in that way, they might get the thing that happened. We went through this experience of infographics, and we set up our company and called it infographics. You know, there's a lot of laughter. People were wondering, why do they have graphic designers, why do you have user interface designers, why do you have sound engineers, and script writers, storyboard artists, and all the sort of things that you find an agency working in a software company? No, it couldn't be software. But our journey then was really about what really are today. Taking what seems like technology for people wearing lab coats behind a glass wall and making it available to the everyday person. Establishing that it is possible for anyone to decide to embark on a journey to democratize the utilization of technology and to create value. This is what Microsoft has built, and we have built on this vision that this awesomeness, this amazing capacity was not a capacity that should be kept in the hands of a select few, but needed to be something that every single person has access to. What was the founding vision of Microsoft was it was possible for anyone. I can hear somebody saying that the audio is bad. We can try and change that. You see?
So I was trying to make the point that Microsoft's enduring vision, its founding vision, continues to have resonance throughout the years. It has continued to have relevance, and you can see in the sense that you can see that still coming from the perspective of a past when, as I said, we started at a time when computers were esoteric. It was a time when people couldn't understand what the power of computing really meant. It was a time when you worked in the industry, you worked in a place that behind some glass screens and people, some big disks were turning in places. Or if you're in university, you heard about this huge mainframe. You had this punch cards that you could actually take in there and do your registration with. We never saw the computer, but along came this gentleman who then said, you know what? We believe the device has come that's going to put this power, amazing power and awesome power of computing at the hands of everyone. And when Bill started this experiment, what seemed like an experiment, he seemed every bit as crazy as we did in 1996 when we decided we're going to set up a company called Infographics. I had seen with my partner the power of this system. He was a computer engineer, computer scientist, trying to study at Kent University in the US. I was just a fledgling young person starting a career in advertising. And the interesting thing was that it was Pius who brought in the technology into the agency that I was working with. And that agency eventually became one of the most computer-driven or technology-driven organizations. But it would take almost 20 years later for these systems to become kind of like accepted. Imagine back in 1996 talking about e-learning. By 1996, we had built our first e-learning application. By 1996, we had built our first touchscreen applications. We had built our first customer service desktop, kind of like a touchscreen application that sat inside the bank. By 2000, we had built a banking system that seemed so esoteric at that time that we called it Online 2000. We thought that 2000 was something, it was a year that would never ever come and that it was going to change the entire world. We've come that long way, traveling a trajectory that people before us and people in this company called Microsoft had already architected. Honestly, when I see Bill Gates today, you kind of like wonder what would have motivated a person and what dropped into his head to understand really where this thing was all going. We went through all the things that happen when you're trying to create something that people don't understand and they call crazy. But what do we have today? I remember clearly thinking to myself, back in the day when they said the world was flat, they thought the world was flat. Some people got into a ship and headed out into the high seas looking for a new country. Everyone told them that they would get to the edge of the world and they would fall off. They didn't stay at home. They left their families, they left their businesses, they left the security of home and ventured. And they ventured out into these wild oceans without knowing what was lying up ahead. This is the only way that an adventurer creates new possibilities. It's the only way that an individual can open up innovation and take the world to the next level. Without those crazy people traveling across the seas from Africa to Central America, from Europe into North America, and so on and so forth, without these people setting forth, doing the things that everyone said was not possible, people thought was crazy, we wouldn't have the world that we have today. And I think that we are really now seeing through things like Power Apps, the real potential that was seen by people 30, 40 years ago when this experiment started. And you can see now that it is possible for you within your own organization and as an individual to enter into this world that seemed to be impossible for others for anyone who was not kind of like going through this process of training and consecration. Again, I want to link it back to something else. So when we started Infographics almost 25 years ago, as I said, it was difficult, almost unheard of. But we built that organization around some certain values that I think Power Apps perfectly reflects. The spirit that you can do anything that you put your mind to. The idea that you don't need to be a special person, you don't need to have special skills, you just have to have a special heart. A willingness to do things differently, a willingness to experiment, to stay with something until you actually produce the value that you're looking for. We did all this with extremely young people like Fonyi. They came straight out of school, joined an organization with only one thing in mind, that whatever you dream of, you should have the courage to go after it. And if you have the courage and you have the heart to work aggressively around it, you will achieve what you want to achieve. One morning, I woke up in Mauritius, and by evening, we were sitting out by this campfire, and there were 11 awards that were being given out by Microsoft for Africa. Infographics, a company that no one knew, was nominated for 8 awards, and ended up walking away that day with 5 of those awards. For the first time, a company from Nigeria with little or no background, no big people, had delivered an astonishing outcome. In the next 3 years, Infographics would go on to sit on the Microsoft Worldwide Partner stage on 2 occasions, winning over a period of 10 years, 8 different awards from Microsoft for excellence. The spirit of excellence is what you really look for, and it's that spirit that I think that is perfectly captured in the strength of what we're gathered here today for. What Power Apps does is this. It creates a possibility for every single individual who may be confronted with a challenge or may be excited at the possibility of creating change to say to him or herself, I will go where no man, where no woman has ever been before. This is the real mission of the adventurer. And to be that adventurer, you do need the power. So allow me to use this really corny pun and say that the power of the app, the power of Power Apps, is in the invitation to every single individual to dream again of the possibilities that lie before you. The key questions are, what will you dream of? Who will you take with you on that journey? And when you get to the edge of that galaxy, when you get to the outskirts of your thinking, what will you find there? And will you dare to move beyond that? Because when you get to the edge, it's the beginning of a new journey. And this is the really astonishing thing around Power Apps, that every individual who desires to do something, who wants to create a solution to a problem, today has the capacity to use these tools, not just to conceptualize, but to deliver cutting edge yet incredibly simple and powerful solutions that deliver great value to organizations and ultimately to the world itself. As you work in this space, and as you spend today working around understanding the capacity and the capabilities that lie within this suite of software tools, understand that it's been a really long journey for a lot of people to get to this point. They didn't wake up and suddenly there was a Power Apps. No, there was a commitment to stay with this vision, to simplify computing, and to bring the power of computing and put it in the hands of people who are essentially creators and adventurers. What you have to do today is to start to explore. And my mantra to you will be to go forth, be bold, extremely bold, and do anything that comes to your mind. Just try, because you can. And in doing so, not only will you build yourself, not only will you build the organization that you work for, but you help to build a better world for all. And I want to close by saying that I have learned a lot of lessons in life, but one of the ones that sticks with me all the time is the one that comes from Mother Teresa of Calcutta, who said, not all of us can do great things, but we can do small things with great love. Sometimes the apps that you build, sometimes the solutions that you put forward using a tool like this, using the suites of the Power Apps suite, may seem small, but each of those things done with great love, with huge intention, amounts to a big thing for somebody else. Just taking away a simple issue that somebody may be facing in the course of doing his or her work is a huge thing. But even more important is this. Some things you can do, other things you cannot do. You need to find people with whom together you can build absolutely great things. This is the real story behind the organization Microsoft. It's been the story of Infographics, and it can be your story too. So I would encourage you to think from that perspective, approach this conference from that perspective, commit yourself 100% to dream huge. Don't let the environment constrain you. Don't think that you're in a little space doing little things. You have to imagine, just like the founder of Microsoft did, that the work that you do can literally pivot and transform an entire world. And today you have the tool. Our job is to propagate the utilization of this platform ensure that as many people as possible can get to understand what is involved in using the Power Suite, being able to guide them, support them, mentor them, but most important, encourage and motivate them to be the best that they can possibly be. I thank you for the time. I thank you for the opportunity, and I wish you well as we go. It's really exciting. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the keynote, Mr. Chineye.